I've made over $1 million profit online at 21 years old. I turned 21 in June. So actually, it's currently I'm recording this in May, so I'll be turning 22 soon. And I'm making this video because I want to give you some lessons that I've learned along the process of actually making this money. And before I actually go into the lessons, let me show you some Stripe dashboards because I know you want to see proof before you just listen to a random stranger give you life advice and wisdom. So I've got a few Stripe dashboards I want to show you. And again, this is just a proof of concept. As you can see, there's one here, 207,000 generated. You can see another one here, 14,000 generated. Another one here, 225,000 generated. And another one here, 417,000 generated. Adding that all up together, that's £863,000, $900. And I'll probably add another 50K through PayPal transfers and 50K through wires. This is in pounds. Turning that into dollars, that's £963,000, which is about $1.2 million. All in all, right? You can ask ChatGPT, look it up. There's the proof, right? I've given you what you need. And I wanted to make this video again because I always find that the periods at which I progress the most within my life, with my business, it's not typically because I followed a roadmap step by step. It's typically because I heard little nuggets of advice that I implemented into my own life, my own business, and I saw an incredible return from those nuggets of advice. And so I've actually got 10 lessons that I want to share with you today that I've learned along the way of getting to this point at 21 years old. Now, I started my first online business at like 17, didn't really do anything till 18, and started making real progress at 19. So I think I started learning at 17, started making progress at 19, and all of this has probably happened in the past 2.5 years. So yeah, $1.2 million in the past 2.5 years. A massive chunk on that is traffic as well. I haven't run any ads, anything like that. It's all been kind of like organic elbow grease profit and revenue, right? And that's the point I've gotten to now. And also, just to be clear as well, I've done this through two businesses or two types of business. One of them is an agency, and one of them is a coaching program. Okay, and I'm not going to bullshit you and be like, oh, I made 10% for the coaching program, 90% for the agency. No, it was probably like a 60, let's say 65 split, 65-35, with 65 being on the coaching and 35% coming from the agency, because coaching is much more lucrative and profitable than running an agency is, and that's just the fact. So I'm not going to lie to you and pretend to you that I didn't. But yeah, I've got 10 lessons here that I want to share with you because these are lessons that I learned along the way that have massively helped me. And this video completely is for younger Callum. It's for younger Callum who was in a position where he was trying to make money online, not exactly too sure what to do. He had a skill. He wanted to kind of monetize that skill and develop and learn from it, but he was just lost. He was kind of stuck in what direction to take. And it's for the version of Callum that was growing and was progressing and was building a business, but kept feeling this sense of like, am I doing the right thing? This video is for him. So if you're someone in that position, this video is also going to be for you. And yeah, I just want to give you some value. No strings attached, not going to pitch you anything whatsoever. I've got my little tablet here, so I'm just going to kind of read them off. As you can see, I've done some writing, so I've done some planning, and this is just pure value for you guys. So let me kill it with the intro here, and let me dive into the lessons that ideally you may learn one thing from this video, but it could change your business, change your life, and as a result, you might thank me later on. So let's dive into it. Now, I wrote these lessons in order of things that came to me, but they're not in order of importance or anything like that. Some of it's about mindset and about kind of theory, and some of it's very practical. So the first lesson that I wrote down here is that money moves at speed and with momentum. And I wrote this down because I've noticed that in the highest kind of growth periods of my life, it hasn't been at the start. It hasn't been at like the end or where I'm at now. It's been during a period of like heavy momentum and speed, where I am showing up every single day. And it's one of those moments where nothing happens until everything happens, right? Money loves speed. Money loves momentum. Money loves progress. And as you kind of like pick up that momentum, more money will start flowing your way. And it's just a natural thing. So my kind of advice to you is that you've got to find a way to start obtaining momentum, to start building momentum, and to start moving fast. Like, it's also the idea of that an avalanche starts with like a single snowball, right? That's all it takes. And before you know it, a whole mountain is collapsing or moving with like incredible force. The same thing goes with you. The same thing goes with your business. It's the same thing with like, not just money, but like, it's not just money that momentum loves. It's also in fitness. It's in other areas of your life. It's in general progression. You've got to build up an element of momentum. And that momentum comes from showing up every single day. It comes from doing things regardless of how you feel, whatever the weather, if the stars align or if they don't align. People ask me a lot the time for advice. It's like, oh, what would be the best advice you'd give to a young entrepreneur? Just show up every single day. Because even if you show up, even if you're not 100% every single day, just by showing up, you start to build momentum, and that snowball rolls and rolls and rolls and falls, and it creates an avalanche beneath you. And it also brings me to the point of the fact that your first client, your first win is so much closer than you think. I know that starting your business or starting your journey, whatever you're trying to chase, it feels so far away, but I promise you it's so much closer than you think. And once you get that first client, once you sign that first deal, that's when momentum comes into play. That's when you start to see that things just start to fall into place, because you're taking action that is in alignment with getting that first client. And as a result, more clients will come from the action that you're taking. I notice with my students as well that when they get their first client, sometimes it can be 3, 4, 5 months before they get their first client, depending on the position they're in. Very, very rare that happens. But for some of those people that are just always at it, but it takes so long to get that first client, I promise you, as soon as they get that first one, they then get too busy. They get that second one, that third one, that fourth one, that fifth one, and they almost cannot contain it to a point of where they need to look at other areas of their business to optimize. But money moves with momentum. You've got to create an element of momentum for yourself. I've never met a successful entrepreneur. I've never seen anyone who is successful who moves slowly. Who doesn't move at speed, who just kind of like trots along day in, day out, but doesn't actually give it some oomph. I've never met an entrepreneur that works 3 days a week and doesn't work the rest. You've got to give it your all. You've got to create momentum for yourself, and you can only do that by giving it relentless action. Also written here that people lose because they give up or stop chasing when they get a taste. And I think that's another problem that you'll find, is that momentum only works when you get a win and you reward yourself for it accordingly, and you take more action based on the win that you've got, not getting the win and then kind of giving up and putting on the back burners. I know lots of people that will get their first client and will kind of think, cool, I'm able to chill now. But no, that is like the catalyst that scales you from the next point. It's like when you go to the gym and you work out and you're kind of like, you're doing an exercise and your muscles start burning and you think, cool, this is when I stop because my muscles are hurting. No, that is when you should really start pushing. That's when the reps start. The biggest bodybuilders in the world, including me, because I'm massive, they would always say that, when you're working out in the gym, you start counting the reps when you start feeling the burn, when it starts hurting, because that is when you are building momentum for yourself. That's when almost like the catalyst is almost reacting with the action that you're taking to actually get the result that you want. And the same thing goes with business. When it starts hurting, that's when you start kind of counting your reps and you start putting in more. It's not a case of you get your first client and now you can chill out and you can lay back and you can drink margaritas. No, that's when it starts. That's the beginning. That's a starting point. Forget everything you've done prior. That was the build up. Now it starts. And from that point onwards, you gotta eat up that momentum, and you gotta live in it, and you gotta bathe in it. Because when you get momentum, you'll feel it as well. You'll feel excited to wake up. You'll feel excited to take more action. So keep working until you get that momentum from the relentless action that you're taking. And when you start to reap the rewards from the action that you're taking, then use that as more of a catalyst, as more fuel to pour into the fire, because that's when it starts. That's when your journey really starts. And like I said, I know a lot of people who will experience that blip, a bit of a win, and will say, cool, I'm done now. Like, I can relax. I've done a bit of the hard work. Now I'll wait and deliver for this client and then get another one. No, that's when the hard shit starts. That's the first lesson. Money moves at speed and with momentum. So you'll notice that you'll make so much more money when you are moving fast and you're doing it every single day. Okay. The second lesson I wrote down here is that money amplifies who you already are. And this is more of a personal one that I've noticed, because I think that there is a lot of misconceptions painted online about like how money should affect you and what money should do for you. And I've noticed a lot of people, and I know a lot of people, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who I know them before they had money, and I know them now that they have money. And there's a very, very polar opposite to the kind of person they become. And it doesn't change. It doesn't change who you become. It amplifies who you are. So if you're already an asshole and you now make a lot of money, you're going to become an asshole with money. If you're genuinely a nice human being with good morals and your perspective is set right, you're going to become someone who has those attributes but has money and is able to use the money wisely. Money doesn't turn you into a dickhead. Money doesn't turn you into a really nice guy. Money just amplifies who you already are, what's in your core, because money gives you the tools and resources to kind of like exert that energy in the way that you want to. If you're a mass murderer, right, for whatever reason, you're a serial killer, you're a mass murderer, and now you have a lot of money, you just have more tools and resources to still fulfill your passion of murdering, right? It's a bit of a darker example, but the same thing goes the other way around. If you're an incredibly charitable person and you want to help and you want to support and you want to look after people and you have money, you're still going to be that person. Now you just have more resources to actually execute on that plan. I don't want you to make money and then for you to want what other people want because you don't know what you want. It's a weird human kind of concept that we have where, because we don't know what we want, and we're kind of chasing something where we're not entirely sure. When we make money, we start to want what other people want because it's what we think that we should want, if that makes sense, right? You see people driving a Lamborghinis in Dubai, in high-rise apartments and stuff like that. And when you make money, because you don't actually know what you should do with the money, and rightfully so, you haven't had it before, you think, okay, cool, I'm going to want that because it's what someone else wants. And because I don't know what I want, that's the closest thing I can look at. Don't fall into the trap of just wanting what other people want because you don't know what you want, right? I see a lot of people do it, and it leaves them down a very kind of like twisted path to the point of where they become depressed, they become lonely, they become unsatisfied, unfulfilled, because they haven't actually kind of redeemed what they wanted, what their why was at the very, very start of them, starting this journey, because they've chased status or they've chased the eyeballs of others and all this kind of stuff. Stick to your morals and be a good in the world when you make money, because you're watching this and I'm pretty confident that you will make money, right? Because it's not easy to sit through like an hour-long video or however long this is to learn a few things. So when you have money, be good. When I started making a lot of money, my first instinct was to look after my family. That was what I wanted to do. My family aren't like not well off. They aren't doing badly or anything, but I wanted to be able to uplift their lives through the money that I was making. That was the whole focus. That's the whole goal. I bought my mum a car, right? I retired my dad, right? So I wanted to use my money for good because I feel like my head is screwed on right and my morals are set properly. You'll see some other people who splash their money on the wrong things. They splash their money on status and eyeballs. And it's so incredibly easy to do that, again, because of the lack of clarity around what you actually want in the first place, which I'll touch on a bit later on. Use money as a tool, not a lifeboat. I think that's another thing as well, where you don't use it to elevate yourself to a standard that you don't actually belong at. Like, it's not a thing where you should be partying and clubbing because of the fact that you have money. It should be a tool that you utilize to excel yourself further, not a lifeboat that you have to fall back on because that's now who you are as a person. And the last thing I wrote down under that kind of category is that to control your ego. I think that ego is a massive problem that people encounter when they start making money, where they can't actually control what the almost flip side of them thinks, in terms of like ego is your kind of your brain within you that cares more about what other people think than what's right or what you actually think, right? So ego will do things for the status, for the eyeballs of others, for the approval of others. That's what ego is. That's why, people fight like in the streets, whatever it is, for ego, right? No one would ever fight, like no one would ever have a physical fight ever if it wasn't for ego. Because what's the point? Logic says, don't fight, someone's going to get hurt. Ego says, I want to be better than this person. I want to show other people how I'm more superior, I'm more alpha, so I'm going to fight this person. Ego is, the root of all evil, whatever you want to say. There's a brilliant book called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. I've got it up here somewhere. I'm trying to see it with my eyes. It's over there. Really good book. You should definitely read it if you're trying to really understand how to control your inner self. But don't let money fuel your ego. There's a big trap that a lot of people fall into, where they start doing things not for their own cause, but for the cause of what they feel like other people will approve of. And that's a shame, because it's a complete waste of money and a waste of time and all this kind of stuff. So money amplifies who you already are. So use it to amplify the right aspects of you. And obviously make sure that you're a good person before you have money. Otherwise, you'll just become, if you're depressed, you'll become a depressed person with money. If you're super happy, you'll become a happy person with money. It doesn't change who you are. It amplifies who you are. The third lesson I wrote down here is that your beliefs will dictate your earning potential. Now, this is quite an important one, because I see a very polar opposite with some people that make it and some people that just don't make it, with an online business, with an actually succeeding. And it always boils down to what's inside their brain and how they actually, what their outlook is on life and what their beliefs are. I think that when it comes to limiting beliefs, that's a massive problem that a lot of people face, in terms of like, they have beliefs that are core to their being, that they have thought and always think, even if it's subconscious or conscious, whatever it may be, they have beliefs that are keeping them trapped in this kind of like invisible, transparent box that's not letting them scale from where they want to get to. You have beliefs around the fact that, business should be hard, therefore it is hard. You have beliefs around the fact that money is bad and it makes you evil, and therefore it does make you bad. It makes you evil, it does make you bad. You want to make sure that you do not have any limiting beliefs that cap you before you start making money. I had the same thing. My limiting beliefs were the fact that, making $5,000, $10,000 a month was incredibly hard. It's difficult. It requires so much of my energy and brain power and me as a human being. As a result, it did. Because that's what I believed. Whatever you believe will come true. And I know it's such a woohoo thing. Trust me, I'm not like I don't like meditate. I don't really believe in like the woohoo shit, but that is so incredibly true. When you start to twist and morph your beliefs that are more in line with what you want to aim for, you will see completely polar opposite outcomes. You'll see outcomes that align more with your goals in the first place, right? So make sure that you firstly eliminate your limiting beliefs before you start chasing things that are bigger, because of the fact that if you don't, you'll always be capped. I promise you, you'll always see downfalls. You'll always kind of fall back a few steps, and you won't realize why, but it all come down to your beliefs. If you believe it's not possible, it's not. And you need to elevate your standards, I think, is the other thing. It's something that I did, and it massively helped me within business, mostly in terms of your standards are what you deem as like normal, right? Your standard, you have standards for everything. You have a standard amount of times that you brush your teeth a day. You have a standard amount of times that you make food. You have a standard amount of times, or let's say you have a standard amount of money that you have in your bank account, right? When you have a standard, let's say your standard amount of money in your bank account is $100. When you make more than that $100 in your bank account, you typically will drop it back to 100. You'll spend it like kind of unconsciously, subconsciously, and you'll just kind of think, cool, I'll spend that. I've got a bit of extra money, right? I've got some extra money, I'll just spend that. And you drop back to your standard. The same thing goes with if you go below that. If you go below $100 and you always have $100 in your account, you will do everything you can to increase that back to your standard, right? Your $100. You'll probably notice it yourself where you have any money in your account, you just got a night out and you're thinking, shit, I need to get some money in my account, and you get it back to the level of where you're comfortable with. If you want to grow in life, in business, in anything, you need to increase your standards. You need to increase what your minimum is, because the difference between you and a millionaire is that the millionaire's standard is to have $1 million in his bank account, right? So whenever he drops below, he'll get back to it. If he has more, sure, he'll spend it and get back to that level, whatever it may be. You want to increase your standard from where you are, because even going from $100 in your bank account to $1,000 as the standard, it means that when you drop below 1,000, you will do everything you can to get back to that level. Obviously, there's always going to be the kind of counter effect that when you have more, you're then going to spend it to get back to that level, because it's where you're comfortable and you feel like you have extra cash. But the goal is to increase your standards, because when you go from having $1,000 in your bank account and you increase that to $10,000 to $50,000 to $100,000, that's now your standard. It's like the bare minimum that you set for yourself, and all of the action that you take aligns with that standard. If you know you need to work more hours in a day to actually get back to that level of money in your bank account, you will work those more hours by default. That just becomes the natural, it becomes the norm. So an easy way to kind of like increase your beliefs or not let your beliefs limit you is to increase your standards. And the same thing goes with everything, like standard amount of times that you go to the gym a week, right? Let's say it's 5 times. If you accidentally for 1 week, because you were busy, go 2 times, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, I need to get back to that routine I was in, going 5 times a week. If you go more, you go 7 times a week, you're going to be thinking, oh Jesus, I've done a lot this week, I'm going to drop my standard back down to 5, right? But if you make your standard 7 times a week, the bare minimum, anything below that is going to be not acceptable for you. And that's going to help you make a lot of progress in life, because of the fact that you've elevated what you deem as the minimum, the bare minimum, the normal. Now, the fourth one is, it all comes down to the value you provide. Now, within business, you are rewarded in proportion to how many people you help. And that is a fundamental truth. It's a fundamental truth that you will learn from absolutely anything, because every business, or for every exchange of value, money will only be exchanged when pain is alleviated. Everything around me solves a problem, and it's why I paid for it, it's why I bought it. And same thing goes with a lip balm to solve chapped lips, right? The problem. A microphone, right? To solve the problem of bad audio. Books to solve the problem of lack of knowledge. Every single piece of money that is exchanged has to solve some kind of problem. And a lot of the time, those problems aren't obvious. They're pretty hidden. They're pretty well hidden. It's like, why would someone buy a beer? What could the potential problem be there? Now, problems will go much more deep than just like, oh, okay, I've bought a lip balm to solve my chapped lips and that's my problem. They'll always go deeper and deeper and deeper. Like, I didn't just buy it to solve my chapped lips, but I also bought it because I don't want people to see me with chapped lips, because that degrades my status of who I am as a person, as someone who is maybe, I don't know, unclean or unhygienic, whatever it is. So the problem always goes deeper than you think. But regardless, every single business solves a problem, and every single amount of money, every single dollar is transferred when a problem is solved and pain is alleviated. Which means that if you want to build a business, you need to focus on not trying to find like a crazy business idea. You need to focus on finding a problem that you can solve, because when you can find a problem that you can solve, that's when you can create a solution to that problem, and you can get money in exchange for the problem that you're solving, right? And that's how it works across the board. So when you focus on value, money will start to flow to you. When you focus on helping people, when you focus on building a service, whether you're coach, agency owner, freelancer, whatever it may be, when you focus on helping people, money will flow your way naturally, because when you can solve problems, people will pay for those problems to be solved. And the more kind of painful those problems are, the more people will pay, right? Again, if I'm going quite morbid here, but if your mum was going to die tomorrow, but there was a solution that you could pay for, you'd be willing to pay millions and millions and millions if you had the millions, right? For that problem, because it's a very, very strong and painful problem that you need solving. I'm not saying you have to put someone in death's path to obviously get them to pay you. What I'm saying though is that works across the board with business. Every business you look at solves a problem, and the same thing goes with you. I started making more money within business when my focus went from how can I make as much money as possible to how can I help as many people as possible. And when you start to help more people, you start to systemize the process of helping those people. And as a result, more money will flow your way. And I know it sounds a bit more voodoo until you actually do it yourself, but you'll start to notice a pattern within the business that you run or the money that you want to make, that money will naturally flow to you when you solve problems. So the other thing you want to make sure of is that you want to make sure that the value you provide to someone supersedes the money that you want to make, right? So it's a kind of idea, if you want to make $1,000, right, you need to provide value that is worth in excess of $1,000. Because if you're only providing value that is worth $500, there is no way in hell you're going to make $1,000. So it works in a sense of, if you're able to provide value that's worth more than the money someone is paying you, then you can make as much money as you want, as long as you know how to scale. So don't start your business off the fact of, cool, I can make this amount of money because I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Like, I see, there's businesses out there of people scamming people and, OnlyFans management, whatever it is, right? Those businesses will never last because they never saw a core problem that someone has and will forever have. So you want to make sure that you build your business or you make money when you can alleviate a pain by solving a problem. That's lesson 4. That's what I've learned, and you'll make money in relation to how many people you help as well. If you want to make 1 million, you have to help 1 million, and the same thing goes with anything that you're doing. Right, so let's move on to lesson 5. And lesson 5 that I wrote down is that everything will fall into place with enough output. Now, the reason I wrote this down is because when you're starting your online business, you're starting making money online, all the odds are not in your favor. Everything is against you. It's the kind of strategy where it's like 90% of businesses fail, 99% of people don't see success in their lifetime, 99.9% of people will never reach like $10 million a year, whatever that may be. All the stats are against you. And the reason those stats are against you is because you are doing no output. You are doing nothing to pull those stats into your favor. Now, I've noticed that through building my business, through teaching others how to do the same, and through learning from people that are far beyond me, you can start to pull those stats in your favor, and you can start to take it down from 90% to 80% to 70 to 60 to 50 to 40 based on the output that you do. Because the more output that you do within your business, the more you can literally manipulate statistics and the potential of an outcome happening that you want. And what I mean by this is that, let's say, for example, you're starting your business and you're doing outreach to try and get your first client. Now, when you are starting your business and you're doing outreach, the stats are not in your favor. Like 90% chance that you will not get your first client and you'll give up before you get your first client. But you can change those stats when you start to do more outreach and when you start to increase those numbers bit by bit. Because if I told you that you're going to do outreach and you had to do, or you could automatically outreach to 10,000 people, those stats are then much more in your favor when it comes to doing that outreach, right? When you start off and you're reaching out to 10 people a week on email, cold email, like let's just say is, completely not in your favor. Cold email, those stats are not in your favor. Sending out 10 emails a week, those stats are not in your favor. But if you were to send out 10,000 emails a week, then those stats would definitely be in your favor, right? It's the same idea with content. When you post a video on the internet, it's like you're buying a lottery ticket, because for every video you post, there is it's small, but there's still a chance that that video will go viral and that video will massively outperform your other videos and will potentially change your life depending on what the video is about, right? And if you know that for every video you post, you're essentially playing the lottery, you're buying a lottery ticket and you're scratching off the numbers, it's just a case of buy more lottery tickets. And I'm not trying to make this sound like just gamble, just buy more lottery tickets because you'll eventually win. But the idea is of content is that obviously you have a much higher chance of that actually coming into fruition. You're completely in control of how many lottery tickets you buy. So of course you should buy as many as possible. And the more content you post, the more you are pulling the stats in your favor of success, right? Because I don't exactly know what the stats are, but I'm sure the stats of making content is something like you have a 5% chance of succeeding, right? Or whatever the success is to you, whatever you define that as. But if you post 5 times a day, I'm sure those stats completely change. And if you post 5 times a day and you do that for a year straight, and I know that sounds like a lot of work because it is, those stats massively change. And it's not just content, it's not just outreach. This goes into every part of your business. The more output you produce, or the more input, let's say, you put in and output you get out of it, the more the stats will come into your favor in terms of what are the chances of success? What are the chances of you achieving the goals you want to? And if you want those chances to be higher, do more, put in more work, do more of the thing that's going to get you towards that end point. I think Alex Hormozy said it best when he said that you have to do enough output to make it unreasonable to not succeed, to make it unreasonable to not. Because again, going back to that content idea, if I told you that if I posted 5 times a day, every single day for a year straight, you would go, that would be unreasonable for you not to see a little bit of success from that, right? Because of the odds are now in my favor, because I've stacked them in my favor because of the output that I'm producing. Same thing goes with anything, same thing goes with, I don't know, you completing a marathon. If I told you that you you could train perfectly 6 months leading up to it every single day, and everything was absolutely primed, you would go, well, the odds of me completing that marathon are pretty high. But if I put you on the starting line of a marathon tomorrow and I said, go and run that marathon, the odds would not have been in your favor, right? So the more output you do, the more you can literally morph reality and statistics, which is a pretty cool thing that I've noticed. So typically, if you want the output, you want the outcome that you're aiming for, do more, and you can literally morph the stats in your favor. It's quite cool. I've done it a lot. I teach other people how to do it. It's a kind of idea of, they're doing outreach and they're thinking, oh, I've outreached to 100 people this week and I'm not getting the result that I want. And I think, okay, cool. If I were to say outreach to 1,000 people a week, do you think it would be unreasonable for you not to succeed? And they would go, yeah, of course, there's a lot of people. Do it then. Find a way how to do it. Do it. Same thing goes with everything. Like I said, lesson 6. Look for leverage in everything that you do. Now, this is such an important one because you as a human being, you have two expendable forces, energies, whatever you want to say, right? You have two currencies that you can spend for every single day that you wake up. That's the currency of time, and that runs out every single day. You wake up, you have 24 hours, give or take, depending on what you're doing, and that runs out. I mean, I say depending on what you're doing, you have 24 hours, right, in a day. You wake up, you have 24 hours, and you can choose to spend that however you want. The other currency you have to spend is energy, and that is literally what you do with your time. So for every single day you wake up, two currencies that you can kind of spend, time and energy. And where you spend that and how you spend it will dictate the outcome that you get in life, right? I mean, there's some people that will literally waste their time and they'll waste their energy and they won't use their energy properly, and they'll put it into the wrong point, in the wrong way, point in the wrong direction, and they won't get the outcome they want. When you kind of boil it down to these two factors, it makes it much easier to comprehend that you are a human being and you have two resources to spend. That's literally it. Your goal should be to spend them as efficiently as possible and to spend them as wisely as possible. That should be your entire goal, because you'll see some like millionaires out there and very, very rich people that you think, Jesus Christ, how do they get like so much done in such a short period of time? And how are they so successful? And how are they able to just keep achieving thing after thing after thing after thing? And realistically, it's because they've mastered those two resources. They've mastered the where they spend their time and how they spend their time, and they've mastered where they put their energy and how they spend their energy. Now, where does leverage come into this? Well, leverage is the idea of using other things to your advantage, right? Because if every single person that wakes up has 24 hours to their name and has a certain amount of energy, right? Some more than others, sure, but you can always increase your energy to make it as maximum as possible. How do some people achieve more than others? And it comes down to leverage. It comes down to other people utilizing tools and resources and other people to get more out of their life, right? So it's a kind of idea. Let's say you're a CEO and you have 10 employees, right? And those 10 employees do the work that you want them to do. You have just taken what you have as a human being, time and energy, and you've multiplied it by 10. Because what you've done is you've got 10 other people that are doing what you want them to do for you. That makes sense, right? So that's a massive form of leverage. And that's why someone who's very high up, very successful, would be able to get a lot done in a day, because of the fact that they have mastered leverage and they figured out how to basically utilize another human being to get the outcome they want. And I know this sounds, it can go a bit kind of morbid, where it's like you're just basically using, slaves to do what you want. That's not the idea, because obviously they will benefit from it in their own ways in which they deem important to them. But the idea here is that when you can find leverage in things that you can do, you can start to play the game unfairly, almost, in the sense of where you can get more out of your time and your energy, in which everyone has a finite amount of, than other people, because of the fact that you found leverage. And it's not just people. It could be systems, it could be processes, it could be softwares, it could be tools, it could be anything. It's a kind of idea, I'm going back to the business sense, where person A will do outreach manually, send an email after email after email after email. Person B will use tools and systems and resources to send out 10,000 emails a day. Both person A and B has the same amount of time and energy within their human being, right, within their self, but they spend it differently and they get different outputs because of the fact that one of them is using leverage and one of them isn't. So I get kind of like, as an entrepreneur, as someone that's trying to grow a business, leverage isn't your priority because of the fact that you just want to do as much as you possibly can to get the result that you want to get. And I understand that completely, but you should always look for leverage in everything you do, because leverage allows you to get more out of the finite resources that you have. And that is a absolute life hack in life as a whole. If I told you that you can literally manipulate the output that you have, compared to someone else, you would say 100%. Give me that, like, that ability to do that. And it all comes down to leverage, using leverage tools and resources to do so. And I think it also comes back to the saying that you don't rise to the level of your ambitions, you fall to the level of your systems, right? And that's the same kind of thing where it's not like, you can have the most crazy ambitions, but if all you're doing is spending those two resources that you have in a very kind of caveman manner, where it's like, cool, I'm waking up, spending the 24 hours, and I'm spending the energy I have, it doesn't matter how ambitious you are. You will always fall back to your kind of like your level of your systems, right? Because if that's all you have, those two resources, then that's all you'll have. But if you actually figured out a way to multiply those resources and use other people and use systems and use tools and use whatever it may be, a team to multiply your output for using other people's time and energy, not just your own, to get your outcome, then you're going to be so much further ahead than these other people. And I'm not trying to just frame it in a competition where you have to compete with other people, but let's just say, everyone's competing against everyone at the end of the day. So looking for leverage in everything you do will help you make far more progress because of the fact that you're able to use more than just the two resources that you wake up every day with and you're born with. That's lesson 6. Look for leverage in every single thing you do, and I promise you, you'll get much further as a human being. Lesson 7, embrace being a student. Now, I think this is quite a fundamental one that a lot of people kind of mess up with. I know a lot of people that will kind of see some success, whether they, cross like a monetary milestone of that 10K per month or 20K per month or 100K per month, whatever it is. And they get to a point where, sure, you can blame it on their ego. You can blame it on the way their limiting beliefs, I guess, but they never search for more information to get to the next level, right? And they never search for knowledge in order to kind of obtain that and learn what they didn't previously know in order to get to that next level. So I wrote down lesson 7, because the fact that I've always embraced being a student. In fact, literally the other day, I bought a program for like $20,000, right? And I'm, you saw at the start of this video, I've seen some success with what I'm doing, but there is such a bigger level that I can kind of climb up to that I'm not at yet. So I'll show you on the screen now. I don't really want to show the actual person I sent it to, but you can see this was Saturday, the 3rd of May, sorry, I'm recording this on the 4th. You can see $17,000. Can you see that? $17,000, and that was a program that I spent it on. I'm making $1 million a year. I am technically a millionaire. Yeah, I'm still spending as much money as I possibly can on program and resources and information to get me to the next level, because I've always embraced being a student, and I've noticed a direct correlation between my growth and what I'm willing to invest in. As I invest more and as I spend money on knowledge that I didn't previously have, because there was a big gap between where I was and where I wanted to go, I noticed that as I spend more money, I fill that gap and I get to that next level. And it's literally a direct correlation. I'll have stagnant points in my life and in my journey where I'm not growing as I want to grow. And it's because of the fact that I haven't bought it or invested in any information for a long period of time. And therefore I'm stagnant. But when I do buy something, I jump to a next level and I keep jumping to those next levels. And because as you grow as an entrepreneur, it's just a game of solving bigger problems. When you start off, you're solving problems that probably require you to spend $100 on a course, right? To solve your initial problem, the problem directly in front of you, making $1,000 online. As you get bigger and bigger, you have to solve bigger and bigger problems, which means that the money that is the kind of the wall between where you want to be and where you are just gets bigger and bigger, and it gets more and more, and therefore you have to spend more and more to solve your bigger problems, which are more important and obviously more valuable. And you just keep doing that until you are literally spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars or pounds on information and knowledge and resources and tools in order to get to that next level. You can really treat it like a video game, to be honest, where for every level you want to unlock, it's going to cost you a bit more money and a bit more, information. And I'm not saying that embrace being a student means that you have to spend money. Like, it's this kind of idea of where you should be searching for knowledge. You should be searching for information. You should never get to a point of where you feel content. I mean, don't get me wrong, please do feel content, but you should never get to a point of where you feel like you are not in a position where you can learn something else, because that is where you practically die. And I know it sounds quite morbid, but I mean it in the sense of, like, if your brain is no longer consuming new things and it's no longer learning something new, that's it. It's over. And you'll be surprised. There's a lot of people who come out of education, like governmental education, and never learn anything new. Never learn anything new. That is the pinnacle of their education. It comes out of school. And by the time they're 17, 18, 19 years old, they never learn anything new. That's literally it. And then they just kind of like get dragged through life based on their limited knowledge set, because they have never advanced and wanted to consume something new that could get them to the next level. So always look for ways to invest more money, more attention, more knowledge in things that's going to further your own cause. Always look for people to learn from. Always ask more questions. Never get complacent. And the difference between where you are and where you want to be is knowledge. It's always a knowledge gap. It's always something that you don't know what you don't know that's going to get you to that next level. Every single time, I promise you, every single time it's a knowledge gap. So always embrace being a student, whether you're making $2,000 a month, whether you're making 5,000, whether you're making 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, you should always be the student, no matter who you're around, no matter what you're learning. It's a kind of idea of like the loudest person in the room is by far the stupidest person in the room, because the quietest person in the room is a person who is willing to learn from other people. And that just shows like an element of IQ and understanding. So lesson 7, embrace being the student. I will continue to be the student no matter how much money I make, no matter how successful I get, no matter how many cars I buy, I will always continue to be the student. And those who let their ego take over and no longer consume more information and more knowledge, they'll dry out. Lesson 8 is decrease the time between thinking and doing. And this is such a good one. This is such an important one. I'm almost like hyped that I wrote it myself. So this is similar to when I mentioned that money moves with speed, but in this case, it's more about action taking. You need to, as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants to be successful, decrease the time between coming up with an idea and taking action on that idea. Because the time delay between having an idea and actually taking action on that idea will be the difference between you achieving the things that you want to achieve in a certain period of time, 3, 4, 5 months, and you achieving them in 3, 4, 5 years. People procrastinate when they have an idea. And people think that the idea is the hard part. Like people will come up with an idea and be like, oh my God, that's amazing. I can chill now. I've come up with the idea. That's the starting point. Like that is the beginning. That's level 1. That's ground zero. If you don't decrease the time between having an idea of doing something and actually doing that thing, you can't iterate. You can't test. You can't be a scientist. You've got to treat it as a scientist. You have an idea, you have a theory, you have to test that theory. You have to make sure that that theory works and it makes sense. And then you go from there. The shorter you can kind of condense the time between you having an idea and taking action, the quicker you can iterate, you can test, and then you can adapt. I know so many people who will have an idea or want to start a business or whatever it may be, and they sit on that idea for a long period of time, and inevitably nothing happens as a result because of the fact that they haven't taken any action. I'll give you an example of this. When I started my influencer marketing agency, when I was 18 years old, I started a marketing agency. I would do influencer marketing for brands and businesses. And I noticed that there was a kind of gap in the market where SMMA was a very big thing. Don't get me wrong. SMMA, eMan, Gadsy, dropshipping, e-commerce, Amazon FBA, they're all big business models. But what wasn't talked about was the agency model that I was running. And the agency model that I was running worked really well for me. Like I went from nothing to 2030, I think at my peak 40K as a 19-year-old, right, running this agency. And I thought, this is amazing. Not many people are doing this. There's not much competition because of the fact no one's talking about it. And so I thought, do you know what I could do here? I could probably talk about it online. And instead of thinking about that and pondering on that for weeks and weeks and months and thinking, oh, eventually when I have the time, I'll talk about it online, I posted a TikTok video the very next day about it. The very next day, I posted a TikTok video about this whole business model that I was talking about. From that point, from posting that video to a month and a half later, I launched a coaching program and made just shy of $100,000, literally about a month and a half later. But most people would spend in a month and a half thinking and procrastinating and planning and be like, I'm going to do this eventually. This is a really good idea, but I'm not going to do it just yet. Because I was able to condense the time between thinking about this could potentially be good and actually doing the thing that I had an idea about, I was able to reap the rewards very, very quickly. But I was also able to iterate very, very quickly because posting that video, I instantly got a sense of whether people found it interesting, they thought it was cool, they thought it was unique, they wanted to learn more. And from that point onwards, I could then plan my next steps very, very quickly. So please, for your own sake, and bear in mind, this whole video is for your own sake, decrease the time between thinking and doing, because the shorter you make it, the quicker you can take action, the quicker you can iterate, the quicker you can then make a next step based on the information that you've got. Again, treating it like a scientist. It's all about data that you receive from action that you take, and then doing what you will with that data. So that's lesson 8. Decrease the time between thinking and doing in everything you do. I promise you, it's much better to do and then test after and analyze what worked and what didn't, as per to thinking about doing. This is a really good plan. I think I'll put this in place soon. What are you going to test on? What can you base your results on? Nothing. You don't have any results, and that's the problem. So decrease the time between thinking and doing, and your life will become much, much easier. Lesson 9 I wrote down is have a bulletproof why. And this is something I should probably put at the start of the list because it's kind of like the beginning stages of lessons I learned. But having a bulletproof why is incredibly important because your why in your life will drive your action. It will drive relentlessness. It will drive consistency. It will drive effort. Your why is everything, and it can't be materialistic or based on what other people want. It has to be core to your being. I met someone in the gym a few weeks ago, in the gym that I go to, and he recognized me, and we were having a chat about a few different things. And he was like, the kind of question unveiled, it was like, how do you do what you do? Like, why are you up every single day, and how do you stick so consistent and stuff like that? And I said, why aren't you? And he said, why should I? And that kind of like, it all comes back to why. Why aren't you? Why should I? Why do you do what you do? It all comes back to your why. When you have a clear answer for that why, action will start to take itself. And this is quite a funny thing where you think, oh, that's stupid, I'm going to take the action. But I promise you, you can almost make action happen on autopilot when you have a strong enough why and you have a strong enough reason for doing what you want to do. Most people start a business, and it goes back to what I spoke about earlier, where people don't know what they want, so they want what other people want because it's what they think they should want. That's a shit why, and you will burn out very, very quickly, and you will become lost, and you'll become empty, and you'll become depressed because of the fact that you don't actually know why you're doing what you're doing. You're doing it because you think you want things that other people want, because you don't know what you want yourself. So having a strong why will drive everything. Again, it will help you wake up early in the morning. Like all this kind of like productivity, how do you stay consistent? How are you productive? How do you do all this stuff, right? All these like fancy words, momentum and stuff, all comes back to your why. You'll be more productive if you understand your why, because there's no room to not be productive. You will have more consistency if you understand your why, because again, there's no room not to be consistent. You have to, because you understand exactly what you're going for. You'll have more motivation when you understand your why, because you don't need to think about, oh, I'm going to watch a motivational video on YouTube now so I can get some motivation, do what I know I need to do. Your why will give you the motivation you need. So that why is going to be important to you. I don't even want to give you some examples because it's not relevant. Like things that I've seen, and not really as examples, but just as, I guess it is kind of an example. Your why can be about, looking after your family. It can be about chasing a dream or an ambition. It can be about achieving some kind of goal. It doesn't matter what it is, but you can't make your why just a materialistic, vague, like vanity metric based thing. It has to be something core to you, right? My why when starting off was all about, I was terrified of living a life that I didn't want to live, and I was terrified of not being in control of what I wanted to do. Genuinely terrified. I think there's definitely some more childhood trauma that kind of comes back to that, but I'm yet to experience that. I'm sure I'll uncover that eventually with some therapy. But my kind of why, off the top of my head anyway, is all about living the life that I want to live, so that I can look after my family. I can literally envision what I want and just do it, and there's no questions around it. Like I never wanted to be in an office job. I never wanted to be sad about how I lived my life and what I did. I hated it. It genuinely terrified me. And for some it doesn't, and that's absolutely okay. But for me, that was my why. And again, I know there's a more core why kind of beneath the surface. I've just got to kind of uncover it. But regardless, I know that I'm driven by my why. And it means that, again, I don't have to wait for some motivation. I don't take 4 days a week off and work when I feel like it. I do the shit I know I need to do because I know I need to do it. And that's quite literally it. So have a bulletproof why, and your action will drive itself. Also, the action you take, it will be easy. You'll do it on autopilot, and you'll start to see the results become much easier. And also, when you have a why, you know what to do, when to do it. Like a lot of the time within business, you'll come to crossroads. You'll come to crossroads and not, oh, what direction do I take? Do I don't know, do I do organic content here, or do I do paid media? Do I get a business partner? Or do I do it solo? Do I get rid of this client, or because they're annoying, or do I just keep them on because of X, Y, Z? When you have a clear why, and it's in the back of your head, and you know why you're doing what you're doing, everything becomes much more clear. Like for example, if your why is that you want to live like a really good life, and you want to live the life that you want to live, then you can base your decisions off, how will this affect the quality of my life? If you have a really shitty client that you hate and they're really annoying and they're bugging you and all this kind of stuff, and you're thinking, God, do I get rid of them, or do I just keep them on because it's a nice bit of extra cash in my pocket? If you have a why of living the life that you want to live on your own terms, how you want to live it, then that will be a clear direction. It will be like, right, I'm going to get rid of this client because it decreases the quality of my life, and my why for doing what I'm doing is to have a high quality of life. That's the idea, right? So having a clear why will help give you direction in your business and your life, all this kind of stuff. Now, the 10th lesson that I wrote down, and I actually put one bullet point for this because I think it's just kind of self-explanatory. This is a lesson that I took at the very, very start of when I started doing what I was doing, and I've been doing it since. And this is a lesson I just want to give to you. It's kind of for younger Callum. Document the shit out of your journey, because it's by far the best thing that I ever did. By far the best thing. The documenting my journey opened up the most amount of doors for me. It gave me the most amount of opportunity. It allowed me to take any direction I wanted to. It allowed me to network with incredible people. It allowed me to have incredible opportunities, again, placed at my front door, not ones I had to go and chase, but ones that were just given to me. It allowed me to kill multiple birds with one stone, in the sense of where if I wanted to start a business, because I had this personal brand, because I've been documenting my journey, I had leverage. I could do what I wanted kind of when I wanted, almost, because of the fact that I always had a backup. documenting my journey has by far been the best thing that I've ever done. And if you're watching this, maybe you're younger, maybe you're older, it doesn't matter. If you're at the start of your journey, maybe you're in the middle of your journey, it genuinely doesn't matter. Document your journey, show what you do, showcase your work. And this can be however you want. You know, you don't have to do dancing videos on TikTok. It's probably not a good way to document your journey anyway, but you can do it however you want. There's not a right or wrong answer, but please, for your own sake, and you can come back and watch this video in 3 years' time and thank me, document your journey. It will be the best thing that you've ever done. Whether, again, you're a clothing brand owner, whether you're a software developer, whether you're a gardener, whether it can be anything. And the thing is that you're thinking, oh, but why would anyone find me interesting? Because you're a human being and you're unique to yourself. You are genuinely a unique human being, and therefore people will find you interesting. And also, you'll notice that some of the most boring people in the world are the ones that document their journey, and somehow they make it work because of the fact that they started and they haven't stopped, they haven't given up. This, for me, is still kind of the process of documenting my journey, right? Although it's a value-driven video and it's about information, I'm documenting what I'm learning and how I'm learning it. And these are lessons that I've learned, and I've been documenting the process of me learning. So please document your journey. You have no idea what can come out of it. And that's kind of the exciting thing, because there's no clear answer. I won't say document your journey because in 2 weeks' time, this is going to happen, but it could be document your journey because in 2.5 years' time, you're going to have an opportunity on your front doorstep that you could have never dreamed of. So yeah, please document your journey. Those are the 10 lessons, ladies and gents. Just to summarize very, very quickly. Number 1, money moves at speed and with momentum. Number 2, money amplifies who you already are. Number 3, your beliefs will dictate your entire potential. Number 4, it all comes down to the value you provide. Number 5, everything will fall into place with enough output. Number 6, look for leverage in everything you do. Number 7, embrace being a student. Number 8, decrease the time between thinking and doing. Number 9, have it bulletproof why. And number 10, document your journey. These are probably the best lessons that I've learned through my process of making over $1 million online at the age of 21 years old. So hopefully you can learn something from these. Even if you take one of these and you think, oh, lesson 5 is really good, then you've made my day. Hopefully I've made yours as well, and you can take action on it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching us through this long ass video. If you enjoyed it, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.